Well, I'm thrilled to say that I've got the opportunity right now to talk to Riann and Zelda, and I'm especially thrilled because, to be honest, 8 weeks ago, it was even in question whether I'd ever had the chance to talk to Zelda again. Zelda, why don't you tell us what happened 8 weeks ago?
Basically, what happened was that I was at work at Trafford Urgent Care. I work there as a doctor. And I was on shift with another doctor there, and I suddenly had a severe headache, the worst I'd ever had in my life. And he told me to just lie down on the bed, and as he was asking me questions about what type of headache, how bad was it, etc., we both realized that I was having a brain bleed at the time. So shortly after that, I lost consciousness. Apparently I had some seizures. He had to intubate me, then took me in for a CT scan. And then they had to stabilize me while they waited for the results, saw that I had a brain bleed, got Riann over to say goodbye before the ambulance took me over to Salford, blue lighted me over to Salford Royal, then had a team waiting who took me to theatre to see where the bleed was, what was going on. They put a drain in, and then they tried to find the bleed, but they couldn't find the source of bleed. And we now know that it's because of something called an AV malformation. Big word. It just means that the arteries and veins in a certain part of my brain weren't, and they were a bit scrambled up. So they just, they have a propensity to bleed then. So that was the cause of the bleed. But it was just so amazing because at the time they couldn't find the source of bleeding, so they went in 3 times to have a look, couldn't find the source of bleeding because God had already stopped the bleeding, which is just amazing. And then they put in a drain to take out the blood that was in my brain, and then I was in a coma for 4 days.
So you were in a coma for 4 days, and I'm aware that you obviously weren't aware of anything particularly in yeah. But Riann, you were obviously now going through all this, and it's been quite a time for you. Tell us from your perspective a little bit about the journey from your perspective and how things were.
Yeah, it was just a normal day. Went, dropped Zelda off at work, went to actually fill up the car, get everything ready for the holidays and stuff. And a few hours after that, they phoned me. They told me that, Zelda is unconscious. She had a brain bleed, and they're just taking me through all this stuff. And I remember thinking, like, it sounds like they are talking about a patient, but Zelda's actually working there. She's like one of the staff. But no, obviously it was Zelda. And yeah, they just told me all this stuff that was happening, and I was quite shocked, to be honest, because Zelda was fine. There's like literally nothing wrong with her. So when they got there, and then obviously they had to prep Zelda, so when I got there I couldn't see her, so they took me to a room to just wait, and then eventually they took me to her. But I mean, it was just kind of, she was just lying there lifeless, with tubes and stuff, because they've already intubated her.
I mean, obviously that then and then over the coming days must have just been so horrific for you. How did you cope? And how have you coped over these weeks?
The first few days, I mean, since that happened there, and I think like about 2 days in there, I was like gutted, basically, like flat on the ground. Anyway, so since then, I just really started praying, getting like, Zelda's got like a whole bookshelf full of Bibles and all kinds of books and stuff. So I just took them and started reading them, and reading like what to do, how to actually properly speak to God and stuff like that. So I started petitioning God, and I was like trying to give all that I can. I was just like, I'll give my car, I'll give everything, like literally it doesn't matter, like whatever I own, like nothing is more valuable than Zelda. So if I can just get Zelda back, we're ready to do everything for him. So yeah, I just started praying then, and since I started doing that, it just picked me up. I mean, and it just had this vision for us. And well, we had this vision where we are going to South Africa, we're going to help him, and help people, bring people to him and so on. So we're just clinging on to that, and he kept on showing on that promise that is still what's going to happen. So even though he's got Zelda in hospital now. He's just preparing our faith, and that worked excellent, because I mean, I was not at a space at that moment where I was really giving up everything just for him, but he used this to definitely just turn everything around and say like, okay, you see all your stuff that you've got, not important. Life was important, people's was important. And although I was like, tomorrow's another day, you know, I can maybe start following God tomorrow, and I can maybe start following the day after that, because there's still some stuff that I want to do. It just showed me that his timing is his timing. It's like, yeah, like I say, there was no indication that this was going to happen. It just happened all of a sudden. And yeah, he just used it for his glory. And
so it sounds like it's had a really positively transformational effect on you, Riann, in terms of your own walk with God, probably, and preparing you more for what he has for you. And maybe, Zelda, you've observed that as you sort of come around. But let's come back to you then, and obviously you were in this coma. I mean, tell us now, looking back 8 weeks, and I know there's still probably quite a journey still to go, but tell us so far how you've come through and how you've experienced God in the midst of that as well.
There were so many things that God had put in place before this happened, just to protect me. The fact that I was with another doctor on a Sunday, which we never worked. We were going to go camping, and God had told me to book it the next week instead of the week before, because we would have been in St. Ives then, which would have been a disaster. You know, finding a hospital with the right people on a Sunday. So, you know, he had everything in place. I don't remember the first 2 weeks of being in hospital. I only remember the second 2 weeks, which again was such grace from God, because apparently I had a lot of headaches in the first 2 weeks. I was very confused, and he just took that away from me. I don't really remember anything from that period, which is amazing. And the 2 weeks that I do remember, I remember one day that I was just really angry with God. I was like, why did you allow this to happen? And I had to get to a place where I was wrestling with him, and I had to forgive him, and I had to accept that this was for not my best, but you know, this was for Riann, to be fair, and for a lot of other people, because for about a year and a half I've been praying for Riann to get closer to God. And I told him, please just, you know, do whatever you need to do. I'm here. Whatever you need to do, just do what you need to do to bring him close to him. So I had petitioned God for Riann, and it's just amazing to see what God did in that time, because he had to take me out of the equation for Riann to be able to get close to him. And he did it in such a way. But he did it in such a way that it was, yes, it was a life-threatening situation, but he had me in his hands all the time. And he just kept telling me, you're going to be okay. You're going to be healed completely. It's going to be fine. You will be back to normal. Not back to normal, but you'll be the person you were before, physically and mentally. There won't be any permanent neurological deficits. I won't kill you. You're going to be fine.
You obviously have experienced remarkable healing up to now, but there's probably still more to come. Is that right? And a bit more of a journey for you. Any things that you'd want to say to people just as we finish, and particularly ask people to be praying for going forward?
There's still some rehab that needs to come, but again, God's promised us that he'll heal me completely, and we stand on that. I mean, God is good. He is faithful. He doesn't go back on his promises. For prayer, I know it sounds strange, but we're good. God sent a physiotherapist to help me with my vertigo, which has improved a lot. I'm learning to pace myself. So it's really, you know, I just need to get some rehabilitation with walking, crossing the street, which I'm able to do now, and things like that. So it's just prayerful for continued grace and mercy in this time for us. Just to be patient as well, and just to keep on drawing closer to God. And what I would honestly say to people is that, one, if you're in a relationship with, or if you're married to someone who isn't a Christian or who isn't as close to God as you are, don't stop praying for them. Don't. Because God will use, and I know it sounds scary, and don't worry, it might not be as dramatic, but God will use whatever situation to get that person back to Him. So don't ever give up on them. And God will be with you. If you're going through a really difficult situation, God will really be with you in that situation. When I was in hospital, I was so close to Him. I could honestly feel Him holding me, which was amazing. And He'll do the same for you. He really will. You just need to be rooted in who He is and hold fast onto His promises. That's the most important thing.
Fantastic. Yes, we probably should finish there, but I know there's a whole lot more we could probably draw out as well. And it's just, we really appreciate you both sharing your story openly, and it's a real thrill to see you both looking so healthy and alive to God, and to be able to celebrate what He's done. So thanks for sharing, both.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.